What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Talking Elite Fitness. I'm Sean Woodland, joined by Lauren Khalil. Lauren, how are you?
I'm good. I know I'm going to disappoint you, though, because you can see if you're watching this behind me that my home has been decorated for Christmas, but I didn't do it. My aunt was staying at my house watching my dogs, and she did it, so I'm not going to take ownership, but I'm also going to leave it.
I just feel like... Go ahead, Tommy.
As the Gen Zers would say, sus.
Oh, okay. That's the Riz. I don't think that I used it correctly in the sentence.
God, stop before I get older.
Stop, everybody, stop.
And
the show's on fire.
Featuring Tommy Marquez. Tommy, how you doing? How's dad life?
It's great. I just about slept through the night last night.
Woo!
How many hours?
Outside of like a quick pit stop for feedings, pretty much from like 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.
You or the baby?
Baby.
Nice.
Definitely not me.
Yeah.
I could do that. It is physically possible with my being right now to do that.
I know it definitely is. But
nice work.
Back to Lauren's decor. I just feel like once you put the Thanksgiving meal away, have at it. But let's let Thanksgiving have its deal here. Like, let's have it.
Oh, yeah, that's why I didn't let her put the tree up.
Okay, good. Perfect.
She sent me a picture with like the dogs, because every day that I'm away, she will send me update pictures of the dogs.
Updates.
And she like put tinsel around them and posed them next to like some reindeer in the corner.
Okay.
And I was like, okay.
You're not hosting dinner at your house, right? You're not having Thanksgiving dinner at your house? Because that'd be like, you know, bringing your girlfriend over and your parents still have photos of your ex up on the wall. No. You know, it's like, I'm right here.
Yeah.
Relatable.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, yeah, we haven't started the Christmas decoration, but the amateur hour that is the Christmas tree shopping has already started in my neck of the woods because of all the Christmas tree farms that I live by. It is, oh man, it's just the drivers are just killing me. They do not know how to drive on mountain roads, but that's a conversation for another time.
That's a no rep.
Excuse me. Yeah, it is a no rep. Man, I got a little something stuck in my throat. I think I had some granola back there. Anyway, here's what we're going to do today. We're going to summarize the changes that everyone's been talking about to the CrossFit Games season. And speculation's been out there. A lot of it has been correct, but we're just going to get that out of the way. We're going to get a reaction from Carolyn Lambre, who is the coach and partner of one Jeff Adler, the 2024 Rogue Invitational Champion and the 2023 Fittest Man on Earth. And then we're going to have a little discussion on the back about kind of what we think and some what-if scenarios. Whoops. That's weird.
What?
Nothing. I just got... I thought that went away. Sorry, I thought we stopped recording for a second. Anyway, before we do that, we have got to thank our sponsor for today, and that is Thirdsy. And look, Black Friday is coming up this week, and Thirdsy is running a site-wide sale. Okay, they're going to have 40% off. That's 40% off before you do a thing, okay? Now, during the Black Friday weekend, if you use Thirdsy.com/TEF, you're going to get an extra 5% off your order. So you're already getting 40. Yeah, you're already getting 40 right off the top. You go to Thirdsy.com/TEF. That's another 5. You round that up. That's basically 50%. You're almost getting half off of the deal here. Their products are fantastic. They help you get to sleep faster, stay asleep longer. Their rest and recovery collagen is the best on the market. It is unbelievable. The stuff I say this all the time, has really helped improve the sleep that I get. I still don't get enough. I get it. But the sleep that I do get is of much higher quality, and I wake up feeling better. I'm not in a zombie-like stupor when I roll out of bed. I don't wake up as much at night. It's absolutely worth it. It has GABA, L-theanine, magnesium. That helps calm and relax your central nervous system. It doesn't have melatonin, so it's not habit forming. I cannot recommend this stuff enough if you someone like me who kind of struggles with sleep. So Thirdsy.com/TEF. If you go there before Black Friday, you're going to get 20% off using that code. Black Friday weekend, you're already getting 40% off. You get another 5 off the top. That's a hell of a deal. May as well subscribe at that point and just get it delivered on a monthly basis because it's that good. And it's a great deal. So Thirdsy.com/TEF. Black Friday coming up. You'll thank us. Okay, let's start with just a couple quick headlines before we get into our interview or our summary of what's going on with the changes. First off, we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, one of the headlines was Sean Ramirez, who has been suspended once for violating the PED policy, has now received a lifetime ban.
Yeah, I mean, done. we when it first popped up, I think kind of the consensus was this seems appropriate, right? You get the first one, it's 4 years. Second time, you're done. At that point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to add to that, but I'm a big believer in, you do your time, you get a second chance, you do not get a third. Mm-hmm. And I have had positive interactions with Sean personally.
Same.
And I feel bad, but but these are the rules, man. And I don't know. I don't think you solve this by just giving another suspension and let him come back.
Because then that's just justifying or allowing it to keep happening. Yeah. Because then if you let it happen twice, then where do you draw the line? I think that this was the right call.
Then the other thing, I think we're all in agreement on that. Agreement, that's not even a word. The next thing that happened is that after some fallout from the first announcement last week, which was the quote unquote results of the third-party investigation and what was or was not going to be done out of that. And now we already have some athletes who have kind of said, yeah, I'm not going to participate in that.
Yeah, I don't want to put words in Luca's mouth. He had a very strongly worded post making his feelings very clear, and rightfully so. So it would be my guess that he's not going to compete in this season in anything CrossFit related.
That is a safe assumption.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, you've had other, athletes step up and speak out. Like Emma McQuaid posted her social media that she's not going to be a part of it, saying that, CrossFit's not going to change. There is a post from Chandler that implies that maybe he's focusing his efforts elsewhere in other fitness realm. I believe the term was, what was it? Not stopping, just turning. Good run. And it was kind of a history of photos from his time competing in CrossFit at the games from, was it the 2017 regional? Remember when he first popped up on the scene?
I'll never forget that.
Those 405 deadlifts. And everybody was like, oh. And, to him, at the Ruck in 2019, his first year, to doing stage one of the virtual year, to making the games in 2021, and he even posted from his where he had the allergic reaction and the respiratory issue when he was at Granite Games that year.
I remember that.
He even posted, he even posted a photo from that. And it's just kind of a little chronological timeline and a really cool photo of him standing there waiting at check-in this year. So it seems like he's going to maybe focus elsewhere. I'm hearing maybe High Rock, some other options are on the board for him. And then there have been subtle posts from Australian athletes like Bailey Martin talking about going and doing some High Rock stuff. I thought Jay Crouch said a professional fitness racer.
Yeah, I saw that.
That came across as, to me, I interpreted that as, I'm not going to call myself a CrossFitter. Mm-hmm. That label, that's not a label that applies anymore. Whether that means he's going to compete in the CrossFit season or not, but maybe pulling out, I need to, that's not how I identify anymore. So there is definitely some fallout. I don't think this is the end of it. As athletes kind of come out of the woodwork more and kind of share their feelings, and we see the lack thereof of signups and stuff like that. I would be surprised if we see some more major names sitting out, and that's kind of to be expected, right? It's just like we saw at the games, right? Some athletes were not afraid to put their flag down and let their feelings known and step aside and be very outspoken about it. And I think even Ariel alone has talked about, to something to that extent, and having some discussion with people. I think I've seen in comment sections just saying hey, I'm good. Mm-hmm. I don't need to follow this if it's not going to align with me anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Well, go ahead, Lauren. Sorry.
Yeah, and I just think that athletes are probably waiting to see the full scope and what the season looks like. You know, we have some breadcrumbs, but we don't have the entire pie yet of what the season is going to look like. What are the dates? What are those in-person sanctionals? When are they going to be? Are they competitions that athletes have experience with? And what are these other potential opportunities for competing in person in CrossFit that could be other verticals? And I think it's intelligent for the athletes to not just identify with CrossFit and be able to diversify, because from earning opportunities to exposing themselves to other sponsors and brands to help make themselves a professional athlete. So maybe that could be the silver lining, is more opportunities for athletes. Maybe it just looks a bit different.
Yeah. Well, that's a great segue. So let's talk about what's going on here. So this was the post where that you're looking at right now, if you're watching this on Instagram, and it was the 2025 CrossFit Games season is just around the corner. And you sift through here, you go to the next slide. So the individual season goes from the open, it's 3 weeks again, February 27th through March 17th. There are no more quarterfinals. The top 1% of the open finishers move on to semifinals, and those are going to be held inside an affiliate. So you're going to do those remotely, be online, as that speculation's been out there. And then a minimum of 30 men and 30 women move on to the games. Now, there's also an in-person, they're calling this in-person qualifying events that are held April through June. And as Lauren said, we don't know what those are. We don't know when those are. We don't know how many. We don't know what the qualifying process is going to look like. Like if you win one, you're in.
And where they are.
And now
what regions will have them.
Yeah. And so the key wording here is minimum of 30, right? Which means they could add more.
I read over that word.
Yeah. Minimum of 30. So maybe they have more, but it's like, who knows? So that's going to be something that we're going to have to sift through. So that's the individual side of things right now. Then you go in affiliate and in person. So in affiliate semifinals, they give some more details on that. April through May, athletes must complete their workouts in an affiliate and will be expected to record and submit their results with enhanced judging and video submission requirements. Okay, that's a good thing. I don't know what that's going to be, but the fact that they look like they're going to raise the bar a little bit on the standards, I think that's a good thing. Judges will be required to hold a current CrossFit level 1 or higher and also complete the 2025 judges course and a new advanced judges course. Okay. And then in-person qualifying events, they have those listed April through June. Why is this doing this? And that is athletes will complete their workouts at multiple live in-person premier events around the world as official qualifiers, giving our athletes more places and more time to qualify. Okay, so that, like, just to take a pause there, if you're someone, if you do the in-affiliate semifinals and you get docked for not standing all the way up on a box step up and you're out, you still have another avenue to go. You could go live in person and work your way in.
In theory, yes.
In theory. That's what that sounds like to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Then next slide, teams. CrossFit Open, February 27th to March 17th. Same thing. In affiliate semifinals in April, and then the CrossFit Games in August. All are eligible to move on from Open to semifinals. Top 20 teams, max one per affiliate, move on from semifinals to games. So there you go. So I guess there's no, you got to do the Open. That's an entry level thing. They don't cut it down, and then everyone does semifinals. Age group, same thing. Open, in affiliate semifinals, teenage and masters CrossFit Games. Adaptive, you got the Wheel WOD Open, so they'll be running that again. The Wheel WOD semifinals, and then Wheel WOD Adaptive CrossFit Games. So same kind of structures we've seen in the past. Now they have a community thing. So this is new. So this is you do the Open, and then you have a community cup that is in June. So all athletes who post a score for the 3 open workouts are eligible to participate in the community cup. Now that sounded like, in the end, they had like these last slides that are just sort of a full look. The community cup is something where the way I understand it, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, is that you submit your scores, you get ranked, and then like you receive a level, like, whatever it is, like if I'm a 7, and then I can go to this thing in June, whatever that is, and I can compete in person against other people of my ability.
I don't know if it's in person. Is that confirmed?
I don't know if it's in person, but it sounded like it was being held in affiliates. So the way it
sounds to me like quarterfinals, but just moved to a different part of the season.
I think that makes sense. The way I kind of read it is maybe they're trying to have affiliates in your area, like organize an event or a competition where you would go and compete with local people, like a local throwdown. But I think, Lauren, you're probably more correct.
That would be cool if I live in Central New York and an affiliate within, I'll say 90 miles of me is going to be the one to host it. Mm-hmm. And athletes that qualify from, within 90 miles go to that one location to compete. I think that's cool.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's required, but it might be able to happen. That's where we just lack details. But I like that.
I mean, if this were in a vacuum and we didn't have all the other things going on, I'd be like, that's kind of cool. If they offer up very like fun and unique ways to compete in that. So say like there's pairs competitions and things like that you can do with people in your affiliate. Mm-hmm. That is an access point through the open. Great. Mm-hmm. Is the temperature of the room really a way I want to pay more money to CrossFit right now?
Well, and that's my other question is like, what I would assume that money would go to CrossFit, but if, for example, if my local affiliate is hosting that, I don't know that my affiliate would say yes if they're just going to ask their staff to come work the event, judge in person for free. Yeah. Like I would feel like the affiliate would have to get some kind of piece of the pie, which then leads me to they're getting rid of quarterfinals, which they moved it from the top 10% to the top 25% in order to make additional revenue. Now you're getting rid of that. So how is CrossFit going to make up that loss?
Yeah. Over 32,000 people signed up for quarterfinals.
Yeah.
With
and
teams
what was it, $50 a pop?
50 on the conservative side, CrossFit brought in at least 1.7 million from registrations and quarterfinals. That's counting like the other divisions and stuff like that. So
this is the article that's on CrossFit on the game site, games.crossfit.com. New Community Cup, and the third bullet point reads: affiliates, that are interested in hosting the Community Cup will receive details shortly. So that made it sound to me like they're going to try to get people together in one central location to do this. Let's see what else we got on the article, because there's some additional details here. Why can't I? There it is. Let's see. New pairs competition. This is something else. New in 2025, we're introducing a brand new in-person competition for pairs. Individual and masters athletes who compete in the open can partner with another athlete from anywhere in the world. Both partners will use their open scores to qualify. The top pairs will then qualify for an in-person competition hosted by Masters Fitness Championship. Mm-hmm. So that's something else. So that's where we are right now. There are very few now in-person competitions. I mean, I shouldn't say very few. There's one that we know of in the season now, the games. That's it right now. Now, how many of those qualifying events that happen in there, I don't know. I don't know if those will be covered like the semifinals were. I am assuming that it will be on those events to kind of figure that out, that they'll be given a qualifying spot, or how many qualifying spots they can hold. Like, let's just use the Mid-Atlantic CrossFit Challenge as an example, because Wilson's a great guy and runs a good event. If he throws his hat into the ring, he'll have an event. He will probably do a community thing. They'll have a competition that I'm guessing he gets to program, because I don't think there's going to be any sort of requirement from CrossFit that you have to use universal programming across all these qualifying events. That would kind of defeat the purpose. And then whoever wins your competition, or the top three, whatever that is, goes. But if you're going to have a minimum of 30, I guess the question I would have is like, how does that? You're not going to have a set number at a semifinals because you don't know how many people are going to qualify to the in-person events. I guess you have to get the in-person events figured out and then if there's like 5, then you qualify 25 out of semifinals and 5 out of that.
Well, that was one of the major drawbacks of sanctionals, that the races for the game spots were relatively lackluster because you never quite knew where things were going to fall.
Yeah.
Especially when you had sanctional events happening before the Open, and the hierarchy of the qualification process was that Open and national championships get priority and then spots are awarded at sanctionals. So it was like, at Dubai, for example, that always kicked things off. And then even Filthy 150 the year before, it was like, you got your spot because you won, but you're the only one that knows for sure that you got a spot. It could end up, that, 8th place gets a spot later on down the line. And that just like the storytelling behind it, the excitement around it, the cut line drama, all that stuff that makes the qualifying process exciting was just gone.
Yeah.
And in some cases, like it wasn't even a person from the first heat that was in line to get from the top heat that was in line to get a spot. So you were like, maybe him, maybe this person. We're not quite sure because if this order shifts, it could all be different.
In theory, I like the idea of sanctionals, but if like Tommy's talking about the logistics, the organization, I get that it's like maybe boring for a spectator, but I prefer standardized programming as a qualifier to the games. I think then everybody's at least on the same playing field. And then, because then you have the issue of athletes saying, oh, well, this competition doesn't program ring muscle ups, so I'm going to go to this competition, or, this one was too hard, so now I'm going to go to the easier one. And it just, I think that CrossFit, and we'll get into this more later, I think, but I think that they're losing that title of crowning the fittest when you have to piecemeal all of these things that really muddy the waters of how people are getting to that final test.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, and we'll get into our interview or Tommy's interview with Carolyn Lambre here in a second, but if you're going to assume, which I think it is safe to make this assumption, that your best athletes are going to qualify in the semifinals, then what do your fields look like at these in-person events? If your top 15 in the world are like, I'm good, I'll see you at the games. Yeah, like that.
Nobody qualifies from the Open, right?
No, you don't qualify.
Okay.
No, you just qualify for the in-person semifinals. And then if you ace that test and you're in, then there's no need to go to an in-person.
Puts a really heavy emphasis on the 3 weeks of the Open for sure.
Which is good. Which is good.
What?
Dave said we're going to make the Open matter again. I think now the Open gets, at least from a leaderboard watching perspective, gets a lot more exciting.
The programming has to be really, really on point. It has to weed out a lot of specialists. It has to do a lot more than what it has traditionally done in 3 weeks, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. And
then you have to make sure that your judging process to make sure you can actually cut down to the 1%. Is spot on because you have to go. Anyone that impacts the leaderboard in any way, shape, or form has to be judged thoroughly.
Oh, so
if there's people fighting for those last couple of semifinal spots, and somehow the last Open workout is being 6'3" and Mexican for time, and I somehow factor into the leaderboard, then they got to make sure that they're judging all my stuff, right? Because if I'm altering the calculus for other people, that's not fair.
Yeah.
Do you think this will negatively impact the amount of individual athletes that participate in Wadapalooza because it's getting close and just...
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I still think the best in the world they fall out of they can fall out of the bed in the morning and they go and they're going to be in the top 1%. Like it's not.
I actually think it could push them the other way. They're like, I have no idea what this like rompus time is going to be with CrossFit Games. So I'm going to for sure go show up at a premier event in a new location
so where I
can win money, activate with my sponsors, and start to take care of take care of what I need to take care of the first month of the year. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Okay. We're going to get into our interview with Carolyn Lambre, but before we do that, we want to thank our other sponsor for today, And that is creatures of habit. Creatures of habit, man. Listen, you got to feed your body the right stuff, right? Optimal protein dose, essential amino acids, complex carbohydrates. You want to reward it with the highest quality fuel nature has to offer. If you're going to do that, you're going to want to go to Creatures of Habit because they have these great high protein overnight oats that help you build healthy habits. And they made it easy because look, sometimes building healthy habits, even if you are a CrossFitter and you got it dialed in, can be a bit difficult, but Creatures of Habit, man, they got you covered. Their overnight oats have 30 grams of protein in each serving. They're plant-based. They have probiotics and prebiotics, omega-3 healthy fats. They're dairy-free. They don't have any gluten in them, non-GMO, and soy-free. They are like the fastest, greatest meal that you're ever going to prepare in your life. You literally dump the bag in, you put some water in, stick it in the fridge, forget about it, get it the next morning. You can dress it up like Tommy does, or like me, I just have it as is, and it's fantastic. It's like if you pack your lunch every day, like I do, going, you got to go to work, you pack your lunch. This is one thing that will take you like a minute to prepare.
Under a minute. Tommy did it in under a minute.
Yep.
That's a scientific fact. And I mean, just think about all the time you're getting back from prep. I mean, I'm getting a harsh lesson in time management right now with our newborn. And I have no idea what I did with my free time before now.
Right.
But in the very least, if I know that I can basically in 45 to 55 seconds have my breakfast made and show up the next morning and it's there, I'm good to go.
Well, head to creaturesofhabit.com. That's creatures with a K. Creaturesofhabit.com. Use our code TEF. You will save 20%. Check out their great flavors. They got a great maple flavor that's really good. They got banana peanut butter that's really good. They got walnut strawberry. That's fantastic.
I love them all.
It's great stuff, and it's super nutritional, super great for you, and it's just a great way for you to plan a meal ahead of time that takes you just minimal effort, minimal thought, but you get maximum enjoyment. So creaturesofhabit.com, use the code TEF. Tommy sat down earlier today with Carolyn Lambre, partner and coach of one Jeff Adler, and got her thoughts and reactions on the 2025 season. So here's that conversation now between Tommy and Carolyn Lambre.
All right, join now Carolyn Lambre. Karen, I know this is short notice, but we're here to discuss some of the recent announcements. Obviously, if you don't know Carolyn, you should. She's the coach, co-owner of CrossFit Wonderland. She's, just CrossFit mind extraordinaire, and the better half of Jeff Adler. How are you doing first and foremost? And thanks for joining.
Oh, we're good. We're good. Not too jet lagged. So far, so good. Just came back last Thursday from a little bit of a trip after Rogue. So it's been good.
Yeah, totally. I saw the photos online. It looked great. We were just chatting before that you kind of hit a sweet spot as far as like visiting. And I'm glad to hear you got some well-deserved leisure time after Rogue.
Yeah, it felt good.
So obviously some big announcements have come down the pipe. Let's start with some of the investigation elements. Before this all even came out, right? Obviously the CrossFit world has been pretty tumultuous ever since everything that happened at the games. And the third-party investigation was launched before we heard CrossFit's announcement about ultimately not revealing any details. What was your guys' feeling? What were you expecting much from them? Were you expecting this? Kind of where was your head?
I don't think we were expecting anything, or at least in my regards, like I know a lot of people, and myself included, like I would want to know what's in that investigation. I did not expect from the get-go or put any hopes or dreams or like anything of that nature into them revealing anything significant. I know I spoke to the investigation, so I know what I said, what they were asking and stuff. I do see some of the things that were discussed in the meeting and the recommendations or the direction that kind of CrossFit is heading towards that. But there's so much more, I think, that could benefit, I think, the conversation and just like the trust and the openness that I think a lot of people in the community are lacking, like that sense of trust from CrossFit and not being able to have that open dialogue. I'm not saying they have something to hide, not have anything to hide, but I think being able to discuss things openly, and I don't think that is being offered right now.
100%. And that seems to be a sentiment shared by a lot of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's still a lack of transparency despite, the words from them to that effect, saying that there was going to be an improvement in that. But I think everyone comes from maybe a little bit different place in terms of where the lack of expectations and hopes and dreams, as you mentioned, comes from. I know for some people who have been burned by CrossFit or through various things, political things back and forth in the past, that's where it stems. But for you, an affiliate owner, a coach, someone who is like your heart and soul's in this thing, where does that kind of lack of expectation and trust come from?
I've had to deal with, I think, a lot of things and emotions, people wise and organizational wise. And what I mean by that, and I think we all share that in CrossFit, like CrossFit changed our lives, and it allowed me to, build my livelihood and all of that. So we obviously, like, I have sentimental attachment. At the same time, CrossFit Wonderland is a business. Like Jeff, as a professional athlete, like we run that as a career, as a business. So there's a lot of things in terms of like, we say we don't want to meet your idols because you might be disappointed. Like, we build these characters of who was Greg and Dave. I've never met Dave Castro, but like I never really interacted with Greg and things like that. So I think there's a little bit of that, of like, since the game, kind of putting things in perspective, and like even back in 2020 with everything that happened, like having to kind of relive that a little bit of like, what are my expectations towards the people that are the figureheads at CrossFit, and also the organization of like, well, what do I want my relationship to be based on? Because I all think we agree that the CrossFit methodology is great. And I think most people are going to, like, I want to keep promoting that, and I'm not going to use another name. So as an affiliate owner, like, what do I do? Do I now say, well, I don't believe or I don't trust in the organization when I still want to be able to use the name CrossFit? Like, it's a lot of that, and of just like, I think having a discussion with yourself or your business partner, as a community as a whole, and just making sure that, like, that's what I've done, is like making sure that at the end of the day, once I've processed all of that, and those are discussion that, Jeff and I are having internally of like, okay, well, if we continue to be an affiliate, what does that actually mean to us? Like, what does CrossFit mean to us? What do these people represent for us going forward? Because, I think that's definitely like what I mentioned before, like that trust, like it's just not the same anymore. I will not have the same, I can still have a relationship with CrossFit. I will not be the same as before, right? Like if Dave is going to stay the head of the games, well, if he's the boss in terms of like Jeff, that's his boss. That's where he's going to go compete. We can interact with him. We don't have to like him.
Yeah.
You don't have to
for sure.
Respect his opinions. Like, I'll respect him as an individual, but meaning like we don't have to see eye to eye on everything. So it's just been a lot of questioning and taking the time to have those discussions, like with myself and just with Jeff.
Yeah. And
I would recommend everybody to kind of go through that process. Like, what do you want this to mean for you going forward? And I think that's what a lot of the community is going through right now. Like, this season's been announced, and it's like, okay, well, are we participating or are we not? And if you are, why are you doing it? Is it because now they said that some of the cash prize is going to the athletes, so you want to keep supporting the athlete, therefore you're going to participate in the season? Or as an affiliate, I can do the open, right?
Yeah.
Like, workouts are released, everybody and anybody can do them in the world. You don't need to be an affiliate.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's unfortunate that this is what has to happen in order for these conversations to be happening, right? You hope that there are more productive ways of having that evaluation and maybe redefinition of boundaries from a relationship standpoint. It's just that natural kind of like healthy relationship process. But the reality is that it's come on the heels of something very tragic, and I think kind of perspective and world art altering for people that are so invested here. So you touched on the boundaries and the conversations that are happening as we speak. Where would you say you guys are at currently with the results of the investigation being announced and the announcement of the season that, for the most part, out as far as CrossFit is concerned and what they have their hands directly in, the season is going to be online?
Yeah. And I'll speak for myself, because like we haven't I kind of know where Jeff's head is at, but there's still so much more thing that hasn't been said. Like there's a little bit, like we kind of know the dates, we know a little bit of the format, but I mean, for Jeff specifically, like him and I mean, he went to the games in 2019, qualified directly from the games, from the Open. In 2020, we did stage 1 and then went on to stage 2. Like 2021 with semifinal. I think we were at semifinals in 2021. It was online again because we were in Canada. It was Atlas. We ended up doing it online. Like at this point, it doesn't change anything for us if we do it online.
It's true.
So I think like for him particularly because of his career path and like how we entered the sport, if we have to do it online, we'll do it online. Like that, it's not ideal. Is it what fans want? This and that. I don't know what kind of, are they going to do it post-production? Are they going to do something like the stage 1 at the games was like pretty good. I mean, there's ways of doing it that can still give a show and highlight sponsors and things like that. Yeah. I don't know if they're that far along in terms of like thinking all of that through, but for us, like if we do want to qualify for the games, whether it's online or in person, changes nothing. The goal is to get to the games. As a sport, is that how we want, like the direction we want to take it in? I guess the fans will let us know. I mean, in any sport, the fans kind of dictate, right? Like if you have nobody watching, there is no sport. So, so for us, like disappointed, not like there's already rumors, like even Dave had alluded to the fact that the season was going to change again sometime in the future. I think I would have preferred a little bit more stability, whether we like quarters, whether we like the structure, like all of that. I think just one more year of stability would have kind of calmed everybody, especially after what happened this summer. Why it feels a little bit rushed to me because I don't feel like they've given us all the answers. Like we've had issues with online judging. We haven't resolved any of that. And now you're putting even more emphasis on qualifying people directly to the games. So those are the things where I'm like, could you have waited one more year? Could we have tested this new judging system, something like judging course, whatever? Now you're just going to implement it, not being sure. Like, it's not an issue we've had. Like, I've been really stringent, me personally judging Jeff. Like, we haven't had a lot of penalties or things like that. Like, so I feel pretty confident, but like, if we're qualifying at home, I'm going to make sure I'm even more stringent. Right. Like,
you're pretty, I'll say you're pretty good at that. You saved Jeff on getting across the finish line on one of this stage 1 submissions. I remember that.
Yeah. And I've given him even the first workout that he won. I think it was 2019. Like I gave him a no rep on that box jump. Like I will give him no reps. Like I'm not shy about that. We're in a very, I think, lucky and unusual situation because I can watch Jeff move at the pace that he needs to move to win workouts online. Which I think for a lot of judges, it's like, who are you going to go watch? Like, who are you going to practice this skill? Like, I can do that anytime that I want because I can watch him train and I can train myself to judge him so that in those situations, like, I'm quick, I can respond. Otherwise, people have to, like, go to Wadapalooza, go to Rogue, like, go to it in person, like, or find the best athlete at your gym that I hope moves at that speed. But they're very few and far in between. So, like, judging is quite a skill. And again, if you're going to judge online, like, who are you trusting? The online judge or me? Because at that point, like, I don't even need to judge.
Yeah, what's the point of it in person, right? Yeah.
Just film Jeff and you tell me if his reps are good. Like, I'll just sit out and he needs to count his own reps or his rounds or whatever. Like, do you want me to count reps or do you want me to judge Jeff? Those are two very different skills and two very different things. So it's things like that I'm just like, did we need this year after everything that we've been through last year? Yeah. Just more questions, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt. And the irony being that early on in your guys' journey, Jeff was kind of trying to shake the idea that he's just an online athlete. I remember going to Dubai and following you guys in Dubai and you guys being really committed to building him into this athlete that excels regardless of where it's at. And now, now
we're back online.
But you mentioned something about, early changing the relationship and with both the sport, the methodology from an affiliate standpoint, but the pursuit still being to get to the games and obviously, doing as best as possible and hopefully winning. But with what's happened and with these announcements, at what point does the pursuit of the games and the games itself have a different meaning for you guys? Is that already the case? Has it already shifted things for you? And in both directions, what needs to happen for it to make it still a worthwhile pursuit and or make it so you have to maybe change course?
I think that for us, it was very clear from the beginning, and this is potentially why we will also make future decisions, is for us, this is a career and it's a way of making money. And as dirty as money sounds, like this is our livelihood. That's how we're going to make a living for the next, 2 to 3 years. He already has like 5-6 years in the banks. This is not something that is going to last forever, but for us, it's not about the title. It's not about the fame. It's not about anything else, but ensuring that we have a livelihood, we have a retirement plan, that we can enjoy life.
Yeah.
So very openly, like, what does that cash prize look like for the next season? Like, what does the money look like for the next season? Also knowing that his sponsorship, my opportunity as a coach, like everything is tied together for future and potential earnings. So there's no decision whether or not, and again, I'm not going to speak for Jeff, there's no decision whether or not we're going to participate because there's too much information that is missing.
Yeah.
We don't know what the sponsorship deals look like. We don't know what the cash prize is. And the issue again with the announcement of this season, because do we have a title sponsor? Are the sponsors coming back? Where is the money coming from? The only thing that I saw was that there is going to be part of the open registration that is going to fund the cash prize. How much?
Exactly.
Am I paying $20 US and that is like times X participants and that's the cash prize for the games? That might incentivize people who are against the CrossFit Games, CrossFit people, whatever, that want to support the athletes and that would participate. Or is it going to be 5% or 10% of my $20? Like, we have no idea. So for the athletes that have to make a decision and base their livelihood on that, are they going to now seek other opportunities? Because if the cash prize at the game is $50,000, that is that's not that much when there's 2-3 years of energy and effort that goes into that. Like, we're lucky we managed to win in 2023. There was no guarantee this year. There's no guarantee next year. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Right. So
especially when that figure is juxtaposed by something like Rogue, right? Where they're very upfront. Like, this is where the money goes. This is how much it is and how it can grow. And this is what it's going to be at a minimum. Yes,
there's
at minimum.
A minimum guaranteed for everyone. Your transportation is partially covered. Accommodation is covered. Like, when you register, when you get invited for Rogue, you know what to expect. So
no doubt.
Hopefully by January, I think it's 15th that we're supposed to be able to register for the Open. Are we going to have those answers?
I hope so.
I would, and that's the thing. Like, now you're asking people, and it's fine. Like, you can wait till 25.1 to register, but like, are we going to have those answers before we have to make a decision? And I have no issue with the methodology being unknown and unknowable. Like, I that's one of the key things that I love about CrossFit is the fact that it prepares you for life, and life is unknown and unknowable. But if you are asking a sport organization and athletes, we know when the Super Bowl is. We know when the Stanley Cup is. We know the 2025 F1 calendar. We know when the Grand Slams, we know these things.
Yeah.
We don't even know important, key information for a season that is starting. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
So it's stuff like that where it's like, if we don't know what the cash prize is, and if that is what we are basing it on because we're done in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever, this is not income for the next 20 years. It's just not. That's the reality of any athlete. You have to make decisions based on how much you can earn in the future based on what you can do now. So
yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's going to be a tough thing to navigate, especially as you mentioned, without all the information that we need. And in the meantime, options like Rogue, We've heard, we've gotten little sprinklings of this World Fitness Project, of what that could be with multiple events, and a finale. I think 3 events total, and there are rumors of other parallel seasons potentially popping up to compete as well. With that in mind, I know you guys have been really focused on competition, obviously, but I know Jeff has had conversations with people, whether it's at, Rogue, and there's, we had Wadapalooza SoCal, and, the athletes talk. Well, where would you say the temperature is for the athletes in terms of the sport and maybe faith in, and what the future looks like and where people's hearts are at? Because I think everyone's kind of waiting for someone to just, put their foot down and stake a flag in the ground and really like take over the sport. Maybe that's just me. I don't know if the athletes are there too, but I think that comes from a place of wanting stability, right? And some stability in the future. And I'm curious if that's the sentiment you've gotten from behind the ropes.
I don't know. The only time that we get to spend time together, like for the athletes, like obviously I'm there in the norm, but like the athletes get to spend time together at competition.
Yeah.
You talk a little bit online and like things like that. And obviously some people have friendships and you're more or less close. I don't know. I don't know where the majority of people are. I think the PFA is trying to speak for the athletes.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean there's consensus. That doesn't mean that everybody agrees. That doesn't mean, and that's fine. That's, politics, that's organization. That's what having a leader means. But I think a lot of people are still waiting for more information. And that's the thing. Like everybody wants an answer, but we can't give them an answer because we don't have the information. Like until yesterday, last week, like we didn't know what the season was going to look like. So you're asking me like, am I going to participate? What am I going to do? And it's like, well, I don't even know what doing means.
Yeah.
Right. Like what does that? So, and I think that if there's more with more opportunity, it obviously gives more reflection to the choices and more options to the choices that people can make. So I do hope like World Fitness projects can take off in 2025 and give people an option. Like Rogue gave people an option. Wadapalooza is another option, and everybody is fighting for a very small pie. And I just hope that the pie can get a lot bigger, more options, more competition, more opportunities to earn. And that's what's going to make the sport grow, because like, why is the NFL or the NHL so big? It's because at 10, 12 years old, you can be like, yeah, I can make a career out of this and sacrifice for a while and like do your homework you can and go play as much as you can and be the best. And it's like, well, yeah, because like I'll be able to make money for 10, 12, 15 years and then retire and like provide for my family. But they have that security of knowing that there's an NHL season next year or in 10 years. We don't have that. So even for like people like Jeff, cool, but like people who were semifinals athletes, who are trying to break through, who are trying to make a career out of this, that it's not just like a goal to be a semifinal athlete or regional athlete, or it's a goal to be like a games athlete. That's one thing. And like, we need everybody. But if you're actually trying to make it a career, and it's not an actual career for like all 40 athletes at the games, because not everybody has the same sponsorship depending on where you are in the world and like all of that, like it's really, really hard to make it with a small pie. Like, yeah, there's only the top 3, 5 that get to be able to eat at the table. Like if we have more option, like let's have a World Fitness project, let's have a Rogue, let's have a Wadapalooza, let's have another type of competition season. Let's have all of these and try to have them coexist, and then people can pick and choose.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to kind of maybe take a slight turn here, because I totally agree. And I think that's a sentiment that we're going to hear a decent amount of, because I think a lot of people are hopeful for what it could be and they want to have those opportunities. But, even going so far back as to the games, you guys made the decision not to compete. And that takes a heavy toll, right? Like regardless of where you're at. And so I'm just curious from, for anyone that might be listening that went through something similar, or how are you guys doing, emotionally, mentally, whatever, like all of the holistic elements of that, and maybe what's some things that you guys have done that have helped kind of build you back up to be able to go to Rogue and compete, to be able to, keep pressing forward, as an athlete and a coach and running your business.
We were very lucky, like even at the games, the people that came out from the gym or family members, we were able to make a decision very quickly. And everybody around us supported that decision. Whether they would have or not, that wouldn't have changed our decision. But to know that, people were supporting us, that was really good. But I think that made things a little bit easier because we talked about it, we took our decision, and then we stood by it. I think it was very, like, I remember in the warm up area, like people were having to warm up for the event, not being sure if they were going, if they wanted to compete or not. Like, that distress for me, like, you should not put people through that. Right. Like people had to make a decision so quickly and not knowing how they were feeling, not knowing like a lot of things. So I think for us, that's what really helped us. And then being able to compete at SoCal, like SoCal was so good in the sense, like I said, like you get to see those other athletes when you compete. And it was an opportunity to compete for fun. Like, and like I said, like we do this because it's our livelihood and it's a career and it's a way it's to earn a living. But SoCal made making a living fun. Because the game's like some people enjoy competing. If like you didn't notice, Jeff is not a competitor. Like he doesn't actually enjoy competing. Like he want the paycheck at the end. So, but it can be fun. Right. Like I do local competitions. Like I enjoy competing. Like I've played sports and stuff. Like you can have fun on the competition floor. And I think like for us that was beneficial. And I'm looking for a word.
Therapeutic, maybe.
Yeah.
Because that's the sense that I got. Like
to do SoCal, and then like I mean, in the back of his head, as soon as like he decided not to do the games, it was like we're winning Rogue, and I was like, yep, I'm on that mission too. Like that was so again, like it's just like the way that we process things. We've had a lot of discussions since, and like we openly talk about how we're feeling and things like that, and like amongst ourselves, and like I've reached out to other coaches and other athletes just like checking in and seeing how everybody's doing, because we're not going to stop mourning. This is something that we're going to carry for a very long time. And I mean, it was definitely stressful in the sense that like the goal was very clear. It's a little bit like 2023, and I know we've talked to you about this before, but like we were hoping to win. That was the ultimate goal, and knowing that you could be disappointed, it might not happen, but like at some point you kind of have to like put your stick in the mud and like mark your territory. So very early on in August, like after the games, it was like, okay, like even last year, like that's what we wanted to do, but this year I think there wouldn't have been any content with second. So going there, like that was a little bit more stressful, but at the same time, like we put so much time and effort and like in the prep. So as stressful as it was, we're still going in like with a little bit of confidence that we've done like everything that we can to maximize that goal. And then the competition per se, I mean, like it's Rogue, everything runs smoothly. Like I said, there's still some camaraderie in the warm-up area and stuff like that. And that's always nice to like see everybody and all of that. It was Fikowski's last, and it was just like, I was like emotional too. But it went by so quickly. It's like, oh my God, it's already over. And it's like, oh, we didn't talk about it enough. Like, I don't feel like we celebrated him enough. And it's like, oh my God, like now it's done. So no, the competition went really well. Like the venue was great. The fans were great. Like there's nothing, all but positives. I think that came out of it. I think nobody expects anything less from Rogue. So that's, to their merit. But no, I think the programming, I haven't watched it yet. I like to go like rewatch competitions. So, but from what I was told, like the stream was good. Like it was fun to watch, like the events, like I think like, and that's something that I really enjoyed. Like you can tell when people like or don't like the programming, if it's like too biased something, like nobody was saying anything, especially on the men's side. I'm not really on the women's side, but so like you can tell that programming is really done when nobody's like home run or da, 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 or like, oh, you're gonna do well, or I hate this, or I really like this. Like it was really balanced and really fun to watch. And I think that was like hit the bullseye in terms of like what CrossFit programming can be like. You know, it is very different. Like the games, you know, they're trying to crown the fittest. Like the test is very different from Rogue, and Rogue I don't think is trying to crown the fittest or anything, but it was like a really good test, a well-rounded test. Like you had to, it was fun. It was good to watch. So no, it was really good. But like I said, I think it was like almost a little bit too short by the time it was all said and done. It's like, you know.
Well, as short as it may be, Jeff will be the 2024 Rogue Invitational Champion. No one can take that away from him. So that will always be the case. So we're celebrating. And same with that blurry photo of Fikowski that you posted. I absolutely love that. That was the best. I totally get that sense of you're like, oh my gosh, gotta hurry up and get it. And it's like, it almost makes it more special at that point.
Sure. That's why I didn't delete it. I was like, well, that's you. That's the first one and the only one I have. So I've kept it all these years, and he's been great. So he's going to be missed in the warm-up area and on the competition floor.
No doubt. Well, thank you so much for hopping on and taking the time. We always appreciate your perspective and your experience and your insight. So, you know, regardless of what information comes down the pipe, I'm hoping that it's a little bit more satisfactory than what we've got. And, you know, obviously looking forward to hopefully, you know, seeing Jeff out on the competition floor again sometime soon.
Well, we'll be at Wodapalooza, so you can catch him there, and we'll keep everybody posted as the season comes along. But, you know, everybody has to make their own choice and respect everybody else's choice. And hopefully this season doesn't tear us apart, doesn't break away the bonds of the community. Like, we know why we all fell in love with CrossFit, the methodology. We know why we like to watch these athletes, and, you know, it's always exciting. So hopefully wherever they go and whatever they do, people are going to tune in and keep watching.
Every time I run into Carolyn Lambre, I realize why she's one of my favorite people on the planet. Like, she's just a genuinely good person, and we thank her for taking the time to do that.
100%. It's a
she
very
has good perspective to things too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we chatted about this before a little bit, me and her, and it's just a very vulnerable time. So like her wanting to take the time to, you know, open up and chat with me after what was a very high for them in Scotland, and then getting to take some time to actually travel, very much appreciated. And I mean, you heard it there, the irony of, you know, so much of Jeff's career was done online for the early parts, and he worked to be a good in-person athlete. That was kind of like the if you had to write the game script on Jeff early days, it's like, yeah, good at online format, needs to improve in person. And now he's improved in person. He's become probably the best in person right now, and it's flipped. It's back to online, back to your affiliates.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So this is the conversation that I wanted to have coming out of that. And it was something that kind of popped in my head. It's because of me having a little experience with the strongman world and sort of how that whole ecosystem works. But do we even need a CrossFit Games season right now? Like, could we just eliminate, like, let's just say that just went away. There's no game season. We'd still have some pretty big events. We'd still have Wodapalooza. You'd still have Dubai. You'd still have Rogue. You'd still have Wodapalooza SoCal. You'd still have Fit Fest. You'd still have, what are some other ones out there? Down Under CrossFit Championship. You'd have some pretty big events. And what if that's just what it is? Is this athletes went through this qualifying process, whatever it was for those individual events. They went and they competed. They were able to make some money, and then they moved on to the next one. Because that's kind of the way it is for strongman right now. You have 3, I think, kind of marquee events in the Arnold Strongman Classic, World's Strongest Man, Rogue Invitational. But you have all these other competitions that go on around the world, and athletes go and compete there, and they make various amounts of money doing it, and they seem to be able to sustain themselves. It's not a huge group, but there is a group doing it. Like, what would be, and I'm not advocating for this, I'm just saying, like, would that be so bad right now? Because it would put, I don't know. We put the focus back right on the in-person stuff. And to me, in-person and getting it broadcast or streamed at a decent level is what you need to do to grow this. That's my opinion. I could be totally wrong about that. But the more I thought about it, I was like, what if it did go away? What if we lost the games, which would stink, but we kept all this other stuff, and there were still all these opportunities for people to go and compete in person. You still had local competitions. You had these other, mid-minor or mid-major competitions like NorCal and Crash Crucible, and some of the ones that are out there. Like, what's wrong with that?
If that were the case, my hope is that it would be turned into something very much like the PGA. And the FedEx Cup Championship, which the PGA did not have a championship playoff or tournament in any sort of form until 2007 when it was adopted. Now, the way the FedEx Cup works, more or less, is that throughout the season, you qualify in playing tournaments, you earn FedEx Cup points, and then at the end, there's one tournament where your points basically dictate where you start on the leaderboard relative to par. And so your points actually matter, and then someone gets to win. And it's almost like how Every Second Counts played out in 2008, where like your total time got you your total time accumulated gave you a lead on that final event. I don't think it would have to be exactly like that, but if there were a way to it, in the very least, have all of these events agree to be like, hey, we're going to be a part of this bigger picture, and that bigger picture can be ran by World Fitness Project, PFAA, someone like that. And we can basically say, hey, this is the calendar of events that you have to try and be a part of. There's these tiers, and they earn you this amount of points based on how you go. And at the end of the year, at the end of the calendar year, the very last event will be, and I'm even okay with like let's make the last event of the calendar year the Rogue Invitational, and that's going to be a big points earner. And at the end of the year, there's a season-long champion. And that's it. And then that's your like big money thing. And then, from there it would require, a lot of people to say, hey, in order to be a tier 1 event, you got to have this many events over this many days, so, some kind of not standardized stuff, but some bare minimums that I believe the PFA has spelled out as like recommendations over time. And then that way it's like, hey, if I miss one of these events, I know there are points opportunities on the table elsewhere. And just like in the PGA Tour, if you don't go to one of the majors, or if you don't go to one of the big signature events that they have now that are big money earners, you can still gain points in other tournaments that are like lower tier tournaments. Because the PGA Tour has multiple tournaments going on just about every weekend in the season. So, that would require a lot of legwork and a lot of coordination in a short amount of time. But if the CrossFit Games aren't going to be the lead, that's kind of the way I would see it. Now, I don't know how Dubai would fit in, being in December, but my hope is that you would have, a calendar year that athletes can navigate, and then you have a couple months off for the holidays and just that time to reset, and then you pick back up.
Kick it off in December.
January. Kick
it off with Dubai.
You could, yeah. I mean, it's funny. The FedEx Cup does the race to Dubai, which is But
what do you think, Lauren?
Yeah.
I like this conversation. I think it's interesting. I like the ideas that Tommy has, because then it gives meaning to a season that isn't necessarily under CrossFit. The concept in general, though, to me, it prevents us seeing those matchups that draw people into seats and that we are waiting all year long for.
Like what?
Like the Tia versus Laura, the Jeff versus, you could name like 8 different athletes on the men's field at this point. And like when I look at some of the off-season competitions, FitFest is world versus Europe versus the world, I think is the way that they're formatting it.
Yeah.
SoCal, the opposite, the US versus the world. Wadapalooza, while we do see people do team and individual, it's not necessarily the same matchups that we see in the individual field that we would see at I can really only compare it to Rogue and the Games. Like Dubai has a lot of top athletes, but since it's so far for US athletes, you don't see all of those matchups that we really only see twice a year, which is at the CrossFit Games and then at Rogue. And with those semifinals, I mean, some of those matchups and those points that were so precious of those cut lines, I mean, those are the storylines that build the characters, build the sports. So I think without having some kind of season that leads you somewhere, you leave or you lose those opportunities, as we keep talking about, for something to pick up a Netflix series or on Hulu, or just following an athlete or athletes at a training camp through a season. I also think that if the CrossFit Games doesn't have a season, then they no longer can claim that their sport and methodology leads to crowning the fittest person on earth, which I don't know if they care whether it does that or not, or somebody else, a different competition would have to have that claim. But if there's no games, if there's no season, if there's no structure to bring people somewhere, how can you then say, well, we're crowning the fittest on earth?
And I guess my point is, do we need to do that anymore for this to be interesting?
And maybe not. But I think that does set the sport apart from these other sports. Like, I don't know what High Rocks' claim is. The most enduring? No, because marathon runners, I get, you know what I mean? Like, to me, and again, matter? It might not matter, but it's really freaking cool that our sport can say, well, we have the fittest men and women on earth.
Yeah,
right?
I think that superlative was definitely an advantage for the sport early on, particularly bolstered by the challenges that got thrown out. Being like, if you can think you can beat them, bring it. And every other sport's like, no, I have the fittest. It's like, okay, well, what's your sport? It's like, oh, triathlon. I'm like, well, you can't lift. How can you say you're the fittest if you can't even lift your body weight? You know, how can you say you're the fittest if you can't, if you're, a bodybuilder or a strongman, and, like these other areas that you intentionally don't train aren't factored in. And so that's where like CrossFit was able to like kind of plant their flag. And it made a meaningful difference, like, because as it got traction and we kept repeating it, it's almost like because we kept repeating it, it kind of became true. And by virtue of no one being able to disprove it, it like grabbed hold in popular media. So it's like, so you could have Ben Smith on ESPN and Katrin Davidson on ESPN during the Sports Center intro saying, "Hey, I'm the fittest man and fittest woman on earth."
Wasn't Fraser on the Today Show?
He was. Fraser was on the Today Show doing.
It was either that or one of the Good Morning America. Maybe it was Good Morning America.
It could have been Good Morning America, but it was definitely one of the popular ones. Yeah. So and that you get those claims, right? And
but don't they do that in strongman too? They have like World's Strongest Man. It's just a competition. There's no. I mean, there's an elimination process that gets you into the stage, so they can kind of make that claim. But like, you have your World's Strongest. He won the World's Strongest Man, but he didn't win Rogue. So does that? I don't know. I just wonder if that title is still necessary to carry the sport forward, and it might be. But it was just a question that popped into my head.
Yeah, I think it might be, given the setbacks that it's experienced in recent years. If things were rolling and some other company decided to buy out the sport, and CrossFit's like, we're not going to give you the trademark for the fittest on earth, maybe, yeah, that's fine. I mean, like, but I think about it this way, like, growing up, like, we would all see the World's Strongest Men, like Metric's World's Strongest Man on ESPN and Sports Center and stuff like that.
It's been around forever.
Yeah, and you would, I always. And whether this was ignorance or not, because at the other time, the other strongman events, the premier ones, didn't quite exist at the same level. But that was always like, that is the strongest person on the planet.
Yeah.
When I saw Magnus Verbagnesen, and Mariusz Pudzianowski.
Wow, you're going way back.
Back squatting 500 beer kegs.
Yep.
It was like, that is, and they won. I was like, that's the strongest man on the planet. And that's what made me like, oh, that's kind of interesting. We're finding out the exact like tip of the spear. And now if I'm like, oh, like, what's this fitness thing going on? They're like, oh, we're just finding out who's really fit. But if you're like, no, we're finding out the fittest man and woman on the planet, and you can somehow incorporate that in, and we're like, we've tested them at events all over the world, and this is the fittest. If we're trying to recapture that and sell that to someone, it's just, it's a little, it's like, it's the cherry on top.
But if they were able to do that, so let's say you got your point system thing and you earn points, and then there is some sort of championship event that takes the best athletes and they put them in this setting, and they have like a 12 event thing. Can't you, like, that does encapsulate a complete test of fitness? And I know people will debate that regardless of what it looks like. But if they do that, can't you claim then the winner of that competition would be the fittest on earth because you got all the best people there, and then you put this person through that? They all qualify.
Good.
So I guess, I love, like, it's why I love the original format of open regionals games, because there was that funnel. We all started at the same place. We had 5 weeks. Then we sent 40 people in every region to the regionals, and then we cut that down, and then everybody went to this thing. And there were even arguments there that we weren't getting the right people, because it's like, well, why does this person from Asia get to go when this person who's ranked 6th in the West is so much better? There was always that debate too. But at the end of the day, like you said, Tommy, you were able to say, yeah, this was the fittest on earth because they all went through the same process. Now that ain't coming back. That's not anywhere on the horizon right now.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is like, I would rather see more in-person competitions and more things being decided online. So if we could create a series of existing events where, like you said, they could get together and they could say, we're going to have this ranking system and this point system. And we all agree that I guess whoever winds up going to Rogue is going to be it. And then they would use that ranking system. I don't know if they would want to do that, but you would have to find an event that would be willing to be the marquee one that you sent all the best people to, and then they competed together. Now, honestly, maybe that could be the games. Maybe that's all they have to do. It's just, we're just going to hold this big, we're going to put the onus on everybody else to use this filtering process. We don't need to run an open anymore. Although I know they want to, because it's a money-making opportunity for them. But
for now,
maybe they just say, hey, we're going to do the games. We're going to sell a bunch of sponsorships behind it, and we're going to get this out of this system. People at the games are going to compete, and that's your fittest on earth.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd have to mend some bridges right now.
This is obviously,
given everything that's happened, But
yeah,
all hypothetical.
It's all hypothetical. It's all wishful thinking too. But
to your point about the claim, if I'm like, all right, like track and field at the Olympics, what do you think is the marquee event?
The decathlon. What is it? I don't know. I don't follow.
What is the event that everybody tunes in to watch?
100-yard dash.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because it's fast and exciting.
It's the fastest. You're the fastest man and woman on the planet.
Yeah, it's like 5 seconds of oh my god, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's always billed as the fastest person on the planet. Mm-hmm. It's like nobody hits clocks a higher MPH than that person.
Mm-hmm.
It's always and even the 200 meters sometimes, just because you started to get people like Usain Bolt that would do the double, but that's the stuff that was always like. You were that is the claim to fame. No one is faster than you.
Yeah. I don't know. Because I look at this new system, and it feels like survival right now as opposed to actually growing. It's like and I understand the financial aspects behind it. It's like CrossFit's got to make money. They got to make sure that they're turning a profit. Understand all that.
See, and that's the interesting thing. Without going too far back, people will say that, the games never made money. They actually did some years. It wasn't a ton, but they definitely did. And there were years that it broke even, and there were years early on that it cost money. The early years, spending money was with the clear goal in mind to work towards profitability and ultimately cash in on some big deals, which it was going to. So the years that it cost money was all part of the plan. It wasn't like the affiliates were just funding it constantly. There's also there were a couple points in time where the games had worked up to breaking even or were in the black a little bit. And there was a clear, deliberate decision for the sake of the spectacle by leadership to dip back into the red because it was cool.
Are you thinking helicopters?
Yeah, well, that was 2013.
Helicopters.
I'm thinking of the 2 helicopters.
You even go to 2016 and flying people down to the ranch. That was a deliberate decision. So anyone from leadership complaining that the games cost money from back then, it's like, don't act like this was a surprise. You made that decision. There was like, YOLO, let's do it.
Yeah.
And it was all with the understanding that like, hey, we're heading towards this direction.
Yeah.
And especially because some of the stuff that dipped the game, that kept the games around breaking even or just minimal profits, a lot of it wasn't from our budget because our budget was so strictly regulated. It was wasteful spending from other parts of the company that they just like shoehorned into the game side. So it's like saying it wasn't profitable is only part of the discussion, and it's not the full picture, and it's not an honest discussion. So with that in mind, I'm like, yeah, they have to make money, but I want to know how the dollars and cents make sense here, right? Because you just cut out quarterfinals, 1.7. I would say the range is probably 1.5 to $2 million somewhere in there, high end, low end. You're without the semifinals, which there were three CrossFit produced events, right? Let's just say $500,000 there. So you're at 2.5 million.
Where does the open announcements fall into that?
Depends. We don't know if they're doing them.
Yeah, I don't see. That's another thing. It would seem. I don't know. It would seem sort of. I hope they do them. I love those.
Yeah.
But it would seem kind of. I don't know. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say disingenuous, but it's sort of a weird kickoff to nowhere, because there was, I guess the open announcements for me are like, okay, here it is. Now we have semifinals to look forward to. Well, that's such a big unknown that there's such a huge gap between open and the guaranteed next time we're going to see anybody live, which is the games.
Yeah, but I think it still builds hype, and you get those matchups that I'm talking about, like the athletes that everybody's dying all season to see face off.
Sorry, I'll let you finish.
Do athletes still want to do it now? And knowing that it's a 1% cutoff, do they want to put themselves in a hole having to do it right then and there and not going to do it back at home?
Sorry, 1%. I'm sorry, Lauren, because when you brought that up, like it kind of changed my mind a little bit, because now the open means something that maybe people would want to tune into that more, because there is like something seriously riding on this.
Yeah.
But to Tommy's point, now because there is so much riding on this, do I want to do that?
Well, and every year CrossFit asks athletes, and there is a handful of athletes that say no for those exact reasons. They don't want to ruin their routine. They don't want to travel. They don't want to be in a different time zone. Like they want to just like focus and almost take the open to, well, they used to take the open to like not be peaked for, but now that they do have to peak, I think you're going to get even a longer list of athletes that say no to CrossFit if they're asked for that exact reason, if it happens.
I mean, and the other part of it is like how often we say this with the general direction of streaming and TV now. How many things are truly appointment television anymore?
Not a lot,
right? And with that in mind, how often can the CrossFit Games?
Did you say Dancing with the Stars?
I did say Dancing with the Stars. Honestly, the season is pretty good, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, Tommy.
Did you just blow a horn?
You got the sad horn for Dancing with the Stars. Yeah.
Oh, come on now.
Okay. Sorry, Tommy.
My gosh. But how often do you have, you're going to have the attention of the CrossFit community at large. You're going to get more live and concurrent views than you ever get the rest of the season, right? There's the monetization of the channel from that perspective, but there's also the money that you can essentially earmark for yourself by knowing you have sponsor placements, right? And you can fulfill sponsor obligations, because CrossFit has not been able to fulfill sponsor obligations, and they've had to renege on some deals in the past year because they were like, we cannot make good on this. So sorry, which is a very, very big problem. And so it's not just as simple
what were
like,
those? Hey, I don't remember that.
It hasn't been publicly announced.
That's not something I've heard. Okay, so I'm not going to. Sorry.
Yeah. That's
well, and even weren't they supposed to be? Wasn't NorCal supposed to be a CrossFit licensed event, but CrossFit pulled out because they couldn't meet their obligations?
That's part of what I'm talking about, like the licensing event and supporting other events and stuff like that, and not being able to fulfill the obligations that were written in the contract. So it's not just as simple as like, hey, we spent $250,000 on 3 open announcements, and that's just gone from the budget. Now, it probably is for the corporate overlords and the PE people, because they're just like, we're just erasing a line item. That's what looks good, balance sheet. But you're also like, okay, well, with it goes whatever potential sponsor revenue that is contingent on those activations. You've now, across 3 open announcements, those 3 live open announcements have 3 million views across those 3 weeks. There's nothing else that you do the rest of the year that gets that type of engagement on those social channels. Yeah. And that's on YouTube. So they averaged 1 million. If you go into the 24.1, 2, and 3 announcements, they average 1 million views each. And in this day and age, with the attention spans at where they're at, like huge. Like that's the biggest, big like push that CrossFit has in that regard. So I'm like, are they really making sound financial decisions right now, or are they just doing so for the short term, as we have suspected?
Yeah,
because they're just, they're flipping the house, if you will.
I hope they have them. I think it's a great thing for the community. I think it's a great thing for the affiliates that host them. And I think there's ways to enhance that whole experience for the affiliates themselves. There's a lot of stuff that you could do. I just don't know if they're going to, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to do them. I mean, I would, it was one of those things that it was always a guarantee until 2019. And even then, like that was, I remember the open announcement in 2019 that they just put on the affiliates. That was sort of when people realized, oh, this is going to be completely different, because there was this expectation that those did not meet for whatever reason. But I hope they have them, because I think they're a good thing. They do help kind of rally the community, but I don't know if they will or not. But I guess getting back to my just original question is that because this sport is what it is now, and because it's no longer this, we've identified the best athletes. That rarely changes. Like, it's rare that someone that I have never heard of this person all of a sudden winds up at the games. The rookies that we had this year, for the most part, have been knocking on the door for a little while and then finally broke through. It wasn't like some total unknown just came out of the woodwork. But so I'm not saying it can happen, but more, we've pretty much identified who those people are. So let's just let all those people go out and compete in person, and then just let them go and compete in all these different events throughout the season. Find a way to have a ranking system, and then throw the best in event at the end of the year and be like, there's our champ. And then you don't have to worry about submitting videos. You probably do for qualifying for events. Like there'll be some sort of qualification process, but I don't know. I just kept having this thought as they keep pulling back on the season. It's like, well, why don't we just, do we need it? Does the sport need it to survive? And I don't know anymore. I love the games. I hope they stick around. But that's the question. And I think people can debate that. I don't know where I stand on that either way, because I do like that season. Like I said, I loved open regionals games. Like, that system was not broke except for the financial aspects of it. I get why that wasn't sustainable, but that to me was always the best one. And everything since then has been, trying to recapture that by doing less. And now it just feels like this is now the minimally viable product that we can put out there that's going to cost us the least amount of money. We know there's going to be some people who don't participate, but given some other decisions we're making elsewhere, and John Woolley did a great video on this. If you want a real good explanation on that, go watch his deal. Like, I don't know. I just don't know if it's necessary anymore. If you can drum up interest around all these other independently run events where athletes can go and compete and make money. Kind of.
Even in the sanctionals era, the money making really went to a handful of elite athletes at the top. It was highly condensed. While there was more money in theory on the table, it really only went to a handful of people, and more often than not, a lot of athletes were fighting for scraps here.
But that's individual sports in general. Like, if you look at where all the money goes in like in professional tennis, kind of the same thing. Golf, there's a bigger pot, so you can make more money. But it's, I bet if you looked at it, there's a handful of people who are taking about like 80% of the prize money, and then you can make a good living making the cut because there's just a lot of money involved in it. Mm-hmm. But for other sports where it's individually based, it's probably the same story. this is not an ecosystem that's going to support a bunch of professional athletes. It's going to support 15 to 20 men and women at the most.
Yeah.
So, all right. Anything else you want to say about that?
I mean, for now, there's still a lot of details that we don't know.
And I think there's some
of details.
The Community Cup thing. I was like, it seems pretty cool. Like there could be some good things in this. I just don't like the lack of. I don't like the lack of live competition. That is concerning to me.
Yeah.
Not knowing what they're going to look like and whether or not they're going to, what level at which they're going to be streamed, or if they're going to be streamed at all, or what that coverage is going to look like. That is concerning to me.
Yeah, I liked this Community Cup idea 6 years ago when it was the team series and the liftoff. Now it just feels like they're, Indiana Jones trying to swap out the golden monkey for a bag of sand, and hoping not get crushed by the gigantic ball.
Okay.
And maybe that's now I'm just full cynic mode, but
I mean, it's hard. It's tough because it's like every year it just seems like they're pulling back. And I understand the financial necessity of that, but we're no longer this kind of hit me like this is no longer like a growth mentality. This is, and maybe it is, maybe their thought is, and this is me being really Pollyannish here. Maybe it's, okay, if we can reset this and get it to a point where it's financially sustainable, then we can kind of start from scratch. Again, I understand I'm being like a blind optimist with that statement, but I don't.
Start from scratch, meaning everything from scratch too, like resetting personnel and leadership and because if you're actually starting from scratch, you got to start from scratch.
Right. I'm starting from kind of scratch then.
Yeah.
A rough draft. Where the only way we can grow it, sometimes you got to take a couple steps back to take some steps forward, and maybe that's their. I'm not saying it is, and I'm not saying I believe that. I'm just trying to look at it from a different angle. So,
yeah.
Okay. PRs, no reps. We got anything before we say goodbye here?
I got a few.
All right, hit us. Let's do it. Will you start with no reps first or PRs?
No reps. We got to end on a good note.
No reps.
Yeah, let's end on a good note.
Bunch of cynics over here.
Yeah, I know. Do you guys have any no reps? Hold on.
I don't think I have it. I'm just going to no rep. The amateur hour drivers that I'm dealing with right now. The guy going 5 miles an hour.
Yeah, wait, what's happening?
So I live around a bunch of Christmas tree farms. And the day after Thanksgiving is when it is ultimate amateur hour up here. And the roads leading to my house, they go up a mountain. So it's a lot of switchbacks, right? And they're narrow, but you can get 2 cars by. But people don't understand that you drive on the right. So if you're driving in the middle of the road and you're coming around a switchback, which is the blind corner, and someone's coming the other way, now you both have to stop. Someone's got to back up and get corrected. The problem is when there's so much traffic, you can't do that because the idiot behind the person driving on the left is also driving on the left. So there's this chain reaction that needs to happen to untangle this whole thing because people just don't understand that we drive on the right. So they just drive in the middle and it screws everything up. And a lot of them go 5 miles an hour and it's just a nightmare. So we don't, Black Friday, we don't leave the house because it is, the traffic around here with people going to the Christmas tree farms is just nuts. So we just we try not to even deal with it. And I have to.
You don't even need to.
So that's my no rep. It's just drive on the right and always drive like someone's coming around the corner. But people don't understand that. So there's always these giant snarls that you have to untangle because, that's my no rep.
I'm going to no rep baby clothes without zippers.
Yeah, see, I told you. I told you.
John warned you.
Buttons are the worst.
What happened? There's a story here.
Oh, man. I mean, I never thought that just having to undo and redo a couple of button snaps would ruin my day.
It's the worst, especially at 3 a.m, man.
Oh man, yeah, seriously, it was probably 3:15, and is in a whirlwind of human excrement. That just,
Oh man,
having that bod and the same. And on the flip side, whoever it was that created the double zipper for baby jumpers, where you can zip from the bottom to check.
Yeah.
Thank you, human.
Wow.
Yeah.
You truly contributed to society.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's but
yeah. But that will lead me to my actual PR.
Let's get to Lauren. Do you have no rep, Lauren?
Oh, yeah.
Don't walk in front of somebody if they're about to do a lift. Just don't. Wait 2 seconds.
It's like talking in someone's backswing.
It It drives me insane. And the people that do it are people that should know better. Like, you have been at this affiliate since it was founded over 10 years ago. Why are you walking 2 feet in front of me before I snatch?
Yeah, don't do it.
So
Are they
pass
competitive with you?
No, not even close. We're not even
okay.
in age brackets that are in the same
Okay.
decade.
I was thinking sabotage.
Yeah.
No. So yeah, if you're watching this and you didn't know that, here is your piece of advice. Don't walk in front of somebody before they lift.
I won't even do, like, if you're on a squat rack and you're facing each other, I won't even do it. Like, I try not to go at the same time as the person opposite me. I just wait.
No.
Like, okay, nope, you're first. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Unless it's a buddy, in which case.
Unless it's a buddy, then you're doing all kinds of, you're like, yeah. Trying to screw them up. So, okay, Tommy, you PR.
I'm going to PR the Latino World Order.
Oh, yes.
Wait, what? I don't know about this.
All right.
AKA the entire Woodland family, AKA the Woodland family Cowboys Gear Good Luck Charm.
I told you we were going to help you.
So a box showed up from one Max Woodland, which is Sean's son, addressed to our family and our son. And inside of it was a baby jumper from a well-famed wrestling faction from the Attitude Area called the Latino World Order, which was a spin-off of the New World Order, the NWO. And it's fantastic. I opened it up and immediately started laughing. And Tip looks over and she goes, "Is it wrestling related?" And I said, "Yeah." And she just goes, and I'm like, "And you're not going to like what's coming after this." Because then I opened it up, and there was a Cowboys beanie, Cowboys outfit, and this huge fluffy Cowboys jumper onesie.
Oh my
god!
God.
That is meant for that, like the cold weather. That is chef's kiss. Yeah. It is. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Me so happy.
So I bought the Latino. Obviously, that one was from me. Like the Latino, my wife found the Cowboy stuff, but the Latino World Order I got before I knew you were having a boy, and I was like, well, either way, we're going with this. It's either way, this is happening. So I'm glad you guys got that. That's great.
Oh, and the first day that we had it, the Cowboys actually won.
There you go. Who knew?
Broke the curse.
Good stuff. Lauren, PR.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Well, first, I just noticed that I have.
Hey, that's an old one too. That's before they changed their logo.
So these Denali blankets, do you know what those are?
No.
They're very nice blankets that I get in the Adirondacks. And normally they run, depending on the size, like around $75. The Rams, though, it was 15.
Of course it was. Ain't no one buying that. You've seen our fan base?
Upstate New York buying Rams gear.
There's like 20 of us.
So
that's
me
about
and my mom have Rams Denali blankets because they were the cheapest ones.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
But that's not my PR. My PR is to Emily and Kyle Rolfe. I forgot to PR them last week. Did I podcast with you guys last week? I don't know.
No.
All my days. Okay. That's
wait, you did. Yes.
Did I? Okay. I forgot. So they were so kind. They were in Texas for tactical games, and I spent the day with them at Yeti HQ. Emily signed like this really cool poster, and it was like this great little day that we all had together. And they rented a U-Haul for their mode of transportation. And we'll see.
I can't even see that. What is?
So they were so kind to let me sit like smack dab in the middle
of the U-Haul. Nice. Yeah. That's all blurry, but okay.
I'll post it on Instagram, but they gave me a lift, let me sit Twinkie. It was very tight in there, but some great conversation with two great people.
Fantastic.
Let you sit what? Did you say Twinkie?
Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
I've never heard that
you're
either.
the cream of the Twinkie. Like if you sit in the middle, like, okay, who's got Twinkie seat? Seat. Let's relax.
Yeah.
Let's relax.
I need an adult.
And on that note.
All right. Okay.
Wow.
I don't know if I have a PR. Oh, I'll PR. You know what? I'll PR the Glitton Things podcast. I was on that.
I saw them share it.
It's fantastic. Like I had a great time. It was really cool, and I had a really good time. It was good fun, and thank them for having me. Like I'm always honored when someone asks me to, like, they want to talk to me. It's someone does that, it's flattering. And I had a great conversation. Fantastic people. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Okay. That's it for today. Oh, you know what? Hang on. I got to vamp for a second because Thanksgiving's coming up. Right?
Oh
yeah. This is our Thanksgiving podcast. Oh
yeah. Thanksgiving is coming up. So,
real quick, what are you thankful for, Lauren? Mine's easy. I've got a 9-pound bundle of joy over there.
You guys hear this?
Yeah.
What is that?
Lamb, rams, hogs, dogs, chicken.
Oh, we can't hear it, Sean.
Yeah.
You can't hear it?
Can't hear it.
Oh, man. All right.
Because your headphones are in. What is it?
Never, man. Okay, I had it. Yeah, I thought you could hear it. Oh, well.
We play it every year.
I know we play it every year. Now I can't play it. Why is it not working?
She's like, I got beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, rams, hams, chickens, turkeys.
Yes, because food is coming.
You name it.
Food is coming here. Let me. That was a big bummer that I messed that up.
It was a big meme that was like, it's Thanksgiving. What are you going to eat? And it's that like woman singing that song about all the food.
Hams, rams.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe I'll find a way to edit it in. So I'll do that. We'll fix it in post.
I was like,
can you also send it in our group? I need to hear it.
Yes.
Yeah, I can do that.
I was like, what? First off, have we ever like dissected that song? Like,
I don't think so. But that's our thing.
Is that?
I don't care, but it's like just a lot of food, man. It's like that. It's that meme. Like, here's what my grandma's cooking. My it's like, so anyway, everybody have a safe and fantastic Thanksgiving. Enjoy your food. Enjoy your families. And then look, when that turkey's done, go nuts. Go nuts with the Christmas decorations. Put on the Christmas music, holiday music, whatever. Have a blast. For those of you that don't celebrate American Thanksgiving, enjoy your full week of work, suckers. So there you go. We're done on Wednesday. And we're 4 days. All right. That's going to do it for today. Thank you so much to our sponsors. Thirdsy, remember that Black Friday deal that they have? Thirdsy.com/TEF on Black Friday weekend. It's like a 45% savings. You will thank us. And then Creatures of Habit as well. Check them out. Creaturesofhabit.com. Creatures with a K. Use the code TEF. 20% off as well. All right, everybody. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Take care of each other. Be better. And we will talk to you guys next time.
Beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, chicken, turkeys, rat. Beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, lamb, rams, hogs, dogs. Beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, chicken, turkeys. Beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, lamb, rams, hogs, dogs.